Baker, a bit of likes to sling it around. How guilty was he on Sunday of maybe, pressing it downfield a little too much and not taking the checkdowns that were available?
I wouldn't say guilty. I would say it's all a part of the process. Some of the holding of the football is part of the process, and that's why it's a fine line when you're coaching these guys. You don't want to coach out the aggressiveness, but at the same time, he is in the process of learning that, number one, at this level, guys aren't going to be wide open ever. It's going to be the process of putting the ball in tight places and knowing when it's too tight. So I think that was a big-time game. Unfortunately, it came at the expense of us as a team, but of growing and learning what this is all about. And by no means saying the reason we had a bad performance was all on Baker, but he was part of it along with the entire group.
They show you more zone than you expected?
No, I don't think we saw more zone than expected. There were just plenty of opportunities in that game where the ball could have come out quick, and there were plenty of opportunities where a safer decision could have been made. But that's the way it goes. It was a tough game, but how we respond to that, how he responds to a game like that is very, very critical. I told the whole group, a loss is a loss, whether it's 1 point or 30 points or whatever it was. It's how you respond to it. It's one game of 16. It's one we'd all like to have back, but we can't. So it's a game you got to learn from and bounce back, knowing that that game can't and won't determine the outcome of our season.
How do you coach him to get the ball to the checkdowns?
Just coach him. That along with understanding. I think the biggest learning that can come out of that game is that guys aren't going to be as open as you want them to be. And then it's on him to make the decisions, because you can save a lot of pain and suffering with that ball coming out quick to your first read. And it ain't always going to look perfect, but he's a good enough thrower that he's quite capable of putting the ball where it needs to go. And we've had a good week thus far of taking that tape and breaking it down and really trying to grow from it.
It's what you're talking about. Going back to his first game in relief in the Jets game, his first two throws, as I remember, were out super quick and right on. Is that kind of what you're talking about? And can you tend to overthink it after you get there?
Yeah. I mean, and that is part of the process. That when you're coming in off the bench, as difficult a situation as it was that we talked about in here, you didn't have time to think about a lot, and I think you saw him be a natural player, get it out. But sometimes when you are the starter and you're taking every rep and you're looking at the tape, the tendency can be to overanalyze, paralysis by analysis, and that's what we're working hard on not doing.
Do you think he was pressing that game a little, maybe taking a little too much on his shoulders for saving this team?
Yeah, I think we both learned a lot during a game like that. I have to be very mindful of his personality and some of his tendencies, and be very thoughtful from a play calling standpoint, and especially in some of the situational football. You're in the fringe. We had a lot of opportunities in the early part of that game to have a chance of making it go a lot better than it did. We missed opportunities, obviously. We had a deep ball opportunity to Antonio, which a slight technique error, by Antonio that he can grow from. Probably cost us 7 points, which would have been a huge play for us. You know, a lot of things in that game that very easily could have gone the other way, and next time up we got to make them go the other way as best we can. But you know, the group came out ready to go. They played hard. We just didn't execute, you know, and it fell on everybody's shoulders.
This receiver situation, it's the guys, the backups who are getting hurt, not your two starters. And I'm wondering how much do you need them to come through?
Yeah, you know, that's been my line for a couple weeks now. Is, you know, we got to have guys step in and step up, and we don't need them to be superheroes. We need them to just do their job. But you know, I give Ratley a lot of credit. The timing of the injuries. You know, Willie's going down on a Friday after taking all the reps. We kind of had the jobs spread out amongst Rod and Ratley and Antonio, and now Rod goes down in the first special teams play. You know, so Ratley was forced into a role, and 11 forced into roles of playing a lot of snaps and running a lot of plays that they maybe didn't necessarily get the reps. So that's the game of football, though. You know, we can't cry about it, whine about it, because that becomes complaining, and all that hurts is us. You know, people, that's like complaining to somebody about something they can't help you with. You know, other people are glad you got the problems.
How do you keep Jarvis from getting frustrated when they're doubling him and he's catching, you know, not as many targets as he really would like to? How do you kind of keep him in the game?
You know, we have a lot of good conversations. It's very hard, you know, for a guy that is the guy, so to speak, and gets a lot of opportunities. But, you know, the most important thing with Jarvis is, you know, he's one of the leaders of our team, and as frustrating as some things may be, you know, there are things that he can't control, and he's got to continue to be a leader for us and go out and take every snap as if it's the most important play of the game, because it could be, and be ready for his opportunities and maximize those opportunities. And you know, like I said, he didn't do it, but neither, you know, nobody else did it either, you know, including us as coaches.
When you have the injuries like you do with receiver, how do you determine if you need to shift the focus to using more, whatever, 2 or 3 tight ends, or going more of a running game as opposed to sticking with your philosophy of opening it up?
It's all part of the process of getting ready for a game, adjusting within a game. You know, when you practice with the few practice reps we get during a week, you know, it's hard to make a all-out adjustment in game. You know, some of those things are a lot tougher than maybe they seem. But, you know, that's all taken into account, you know, especially when you have time to deal with it, you know, as we do this week.
Last week you said Willie's was a great example for Scott to stay ready. Now Scott's up, so how ready is he?
He's been working really hard. You know, like I said, I was proud of Ratley. It was, you know, the spotlight went on him. He had to step in and play a lot of snaps, and like I said, running plays that he necessarily didn't get physical reps doing. So he's another great example. You know, now I hope that doesn't put the kibosh on him. But, you know, this is a young group across the board. And what I've stressed to the entire group is the guys that have been playing, and I'm not saying the veteran guys, because we got a lot of guys playing that are still young guys, rookies, second year, third year. But the guys that have been playing have to be a stabilizing force for the guys that are now just playing. You know, getting their first reps for some of them of their NFL career. You know, we need that stabilizing force. That means that even though Antonio may be a young guy, he's got to be a stabilizing force for Ratley or Scott or Perriman, you know, who just got here and is trying, you know, working like heck to learn and understand what his potential role is. So, you know, it's all very good learning for a young group, and if we can make the most of it and grow from it, we'll have a chance to get something done.
You use your expertise to weigh in your in-house meetings on the other quarterback. And then again, I'm asking you to comment on Winston, I guess. But do you look at him and share with the defensive guys what you see?
There's so little time for that. I mean, we are worrying about each side of the ball and trying to do our best to prepare our guys to play. If there's a unique connection, there can be some conversation, but we got our heads down and we're grinding, trying to have our guys ready.
Quickly, to maybe liken a trait that you described. He's big and he's hard to tackle. Is there a little bit of Big Ben in what he does that way?
Who, Jameis?
Yeah.
I'm worried about our offense. I mean, did work on him obviously coming out, and he's a good young player.
Any feeling?
I hope he throws it to us.
Do you have any feeling or insight on why only 6 points in the first quarter this season?
We've had a lot of discussions, amongst coaches, myself and the quarterbacks, on how we can best get started in a better fashion. Last week I thought we were set up to start very well. We had the early jump by them. Got a good play to David right out of the gate. Moved the chains. That's always a good thing to get an early completion. We got him to jump off sides on the next play. Our mode is to sit in there and not be happy with the 5 yards, to get the ball down the field. And a young player and Desmond responded to their movement. So, we got a 5-yard gain out of it. But, things were moving in the right direction. And then again, it came down to execution. Third down situational plays, we got to make plays. And we take a sack on the very first third down when we go into that game. One of our goals to protect the quarterback, to get the ball out, and so that made for a tough start. But then you had some of the injury situations. But again, that's the NFL. That's the way it goes. And the teams that are able to respond in those difficult situations and continue to move the football and make plays are the ones that have a chance to be pretty good. So, that's what we're looking for this week, is to see a group that has responded a bunch to adversity do it again.
Would I be correct assuming you script the opening plays? And that those are plays you've worked on all week?
Yeah, we've worked on all the plays all week, but those specifically we put in extra time. They know ahead of time what we're going to run, how we're going to run it. So that's part of the discussions that I alluded to. That we've opened the game in no huddle as we did last week. We've opened the game running the football. We need to do a better job as a group, and I'm pointing the thumb at myself of figuring out a way to execute early. And that's been a common theme, and we've been in position to execute early, and for one reason or another haven't. So, we got to continue to work hard on trying to figure out the best way to get this thing started, because, I've told the offense very clearly this week that, we need to do something to get the Browns going early. We can't wait around and wait for somebody else to do it, for Myles Garrett to make a big sack fumble or something like that. We got to do it, and that's the charge this week, and looking to see our guys respond.
Last one. Mayfield said that this past weekend was the worst loss that he's ever had, going back in his college career and everything. And you obviously said it's very critical for him to bounce back. Has he been, just because of, we see this stuff about him being such a competitor and a fiery guy, has he been any different this week at all, coming off a loss as opposed to, after the Jets or after the Ravens?
Oh, he's been pretty even keel, which I think is a good sign. He's all business and looking for ways that he can be better. he understands that he's got to be better than last week to get us and him where we need to go. So like I said, the response is what's critical. Bad games, bad plays are going to happen. It's how you respond to those situations that's critical. As Sam Ritigliano told me one time, sometimes the response to the crisis is more important than the crisis itself.